Welcome. We'll get started in just a moment as we wait for other folks to join.
Hi, everybody. Hey, y'all, as you get set, we're gonna start in just a little bit, but as you get settled in, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat with your name and your organization. No one will know who's here. Hi, Renzo.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Serrato. I'm the Director of Engagement here at Cradle-to-Career. Before I hand it over to Ryan Estriato, Director of Data Programs officially, I wanted to go over a bit of housekeeping so we can keep everybody up to speed. First of all, I want to flag that this meeting is being recorded and this will be available on our Cradle-to-Career YouTube page, as well as posted to the Cradle-to-Career website under Get Involved in the coming days. I also want to flag that while we look forward to engaging with the community early and often, we take equity very seriously. We are working hard to ensure that all of our meetings and materials are available and accessible in all the languages needed for the populations that we serve. But in the interim, I wanted to flag that this is being closed caption enabled today. You can launch captions in the right-hand part of your toolbar under the More section for captions, and you can also select your preferred language there. I also want to flag that we will be engaging with you through a series of polls today. Some will be launched directly through Zoom, but we will be using a system called Poll Everywhere today for our open-ended questions. And so we're going to drop a link in the chat to that poll page just so that folks can get acclimated. And we'll have a couple more instructions later on in today's session about how you can log in via mobile device. And finally, while participants are being muted, I want to flag that you can always drop in comments and questions in the chat, and we'll try our best to respond for the day. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan to welcome you all and get started. Take it away, Ryan.
Thanks, Shannon. Hi, everybody. Gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to see everybody. So funny thing about this, we're in a moment of time here where this is my first one, and I think this is the third community conversation event. So some of y'all have been to more of these than I have, but then some of you are here for the first time. And so I think worthwhile to just kind of come together around the purpose of this. I'm the Director of Data Programs. I'm brand new here. And the community conversation events are where we share information about our work at the Office of Cradle-to-Career Data, but also importantly, where we get to hear from you and we get a chance to nurture a sense of community, which is a big part of how we do our work. So if you haven't already, in the spirit of that, in the chat, share your name, the organization that you're with. Okay, so Shannon mentioned that we're going to be getting lots of input and doing lots of conversation today through a few different ways. And we're going to do the first one of that right now. So it's time for input. We're going to use the Zoom polls for this and also the chat. And the purpose of this first poll is to help us get acquainted. So this is just a warm up. So first one is we're going to do is a Zoom poll. Give me a thumbs up or a reaction if you are ready for the Zoom poll.
Yeah, keep going. I'm having some technical issues on mine.
Oh, okay, no worries. How about this? I'm going to start with the chat one, and then we'll do the Zoom poll right afterwards. So thumbs up if your fingers are on the keyboard and you're ready to chat. Okay. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, enter in the chat. What fall activity are you looking forward to? What fall activity are you looking forward to? Linda says pumpkin patches. Brianna says Halloween. Oh, Libby, eating pie. Me too. Ofa says not so much an activity, but soup season. Yep. Another for Halloween. Angela says, finishing up canning my fall harvest to eat during the rest of the year. That's pretty cool. Trail walking, more for the pumpkin patches. Dia de Muertos, awesome. Cooking. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like wearing my sweatpants more often and reading on the couch, which is funny because I don't know why it's required for fall to do that. Could probably just do that, you know, maybe in some other season, but somehow, I don't know, it just feels right for fall. Okay, keep those responses coming. And I'm just gonna check back with Mara. How's it looking for the Zoom poll?
Reason it's not letting me launch the official part. I apologize greatly, but I'm going to keep trying here and I'll ping you when I can. Perhaps we can use the chat for the other ones as well in the short term as I get myself situated here.
That sounds great. We can do that. Okay, so let's do one more, okay, and then we'll move on to the next slide after this. So,
hey, whatever you want to do, come on in.
And I want to remind everybody to mute their lines,
I've been
please.
asking for help.
If you could please mute your lines if you haven't already.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do one more in the chat. Here we go. What has been your involvement with the Cradle-to-Career system, if any? Maybe you're brand new here, and that's fine too. You can just put that in there. What has been your involvement with the Cradle-to-Career system in the chat? Brand new. Brianna says brand new. Same, Brianna. Brand new. New, here to learn. New. Oh, cool. Okay, so lots of new folks. Okay, Veronica says brand new, but supporting with our local ESIDS work. All right, awesome. Okay, so chat is open. Keep those responses coming as we get to know each other. I'm going to move on. Mara, you can ping me when you're ready for the Zoom. But I'm going to move on, and we'll keep the conversation going. Okay, Shannon, if you can move us along here, the next one. Okay, so given that many of us here are new, let's talk about what the Cradle-to-Career, Office of Cradle-to-Career data does. Lots of things, but the way that we would describe our work is in these three buckets. So first, data, producing data on education and job outcomes. All right, producing means a very specific thing here, which is we are not creating new data. We are working with our data partners very hard to bring data together and then offer it to a wide audience to use in their day-to-day work and life. And so we want to share education and job information in a way that's easy to use and meaningful, whether you're a student, researcher, or educator. So taking existing data, putting it together, and then doing that. The second is tools to support college planning and transition. So we want to connect students and families with the resources that they need when they're going from high school to college. Some of this work is available now on californiacolleges.edu. That's a second part. And then the third is training and outreach. We're all about community engagement. So having events like this one today, where folks like you in the community can get the most from the products we're building, and we can learn how to do that together. And so on the topic of community engagement, I'm going to hand the virtual mic to my teammate, Shannon.
I can go back to.
Should we go back?
Yeah, I can. We can do the polls of who folks are, so everyone can see that.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and launch this one real quick.
All right. Get yourself in Zoom poll mode. We are going to jump in here. First one, you should see a poll available to you, is about your role. What role brings you here today? Answer in the Zoom poll, and we'll report answers out.
Looks like we've got most folks who have responded in the poll. A couple more coming in. Can you see the responses? All right, combined poll.
Okay. So it's like a highest share here tied between policy advocate and other at 28%. Next highest 26% educators, 21% researchers, community members and administrator tied 14%. Parents at 9% and funder at 2%. Cool. This is cool. All right, Mara, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to move on to the hand the mic over to Shannon and get the story moving there. Is that okay?
That works for me.
All right, let's do it. Okay, Shannon, in the community spirit of community engagement, I'm going to turn it over to Shannon, who's going to talk about naming and branding.
Thank you, Ryan. As mentioned earlier, I am Shannon Serrato, the Director of Engagement here with Cradle-to-Career. Prior to joining C2C, I was Communications Director with the Institute for College Access and Success, a higher education policy and research organization focused on both issues at the state and federal level. And that's where I first fell in love with using data and communications to affect change. I'm also a lifelong Californian. I'm from San Diego, National City specifically, and I live in Oakland now. So I'm super excited to be working on a data system that's been envisioned to be the most inclusive data system of its kind in the country, centering accessibility, user-centered design, and in-depth engagement with students, families, and communities. So let's dive in. Before joining C2C, what I loved most about this was the transparency and intentionality of the process. We want to ensure communities and the populations that we serve feel involved in every step of the way. And that's not a small, and though it's not a small issue to tackle, that includes our name. So what's in a name? California's Cradle-to-Career data system was named in state legislation to be California's source of actionable data and research on education, economic and health outcomes for individuals, families, and communities. And we want to ensure that our name reflects that landmark investment and the goal of helping Californians build more equitable futures and empower individuals to reach their full potential. More specifically, it's my job to ensure that we have a cohesive and streamlined brand identity. And right now, let's just say Cradle-to-Career answers to many different names. You may have heard California's Cradle-to-Career data system, the Office of Cradle-to-Career data, Cradle-to-Career data, and though not as common, Cradle-to-Career Insights, Cradle-to-Career Hub, Cradle-to-Career System, and Cradle-to-Career Center have also been thrown into the mix. With that, not to mention the many Cradle-to-Career direct service programs doing great work across the country, we've got a lot of competing names and identities. So we want to hear from you. As noted earlier, we're centering community engagement as we build the system and want to engage and include all of our stakeholders in every step of the process, which includes deciding on a name. Our goal today is to gather input from you all about naming options, feelings that come to mind when you hear certain words or terms, and what names or taglines would best help convey the vision and mission of Cradle-to-Career system to you. Defining the Cradle-to-Career system is more than just figuring out what we use on our website or on our business cards. It's about how we communicate the system to the world. So right now, we're going to pull up another poll to gauge your thoughts about certain words. We'd like folks to indicate what words resonate with you when thinking about the Cradle-to-Career system, as well as what words or terms may be a barrier to conveying the mission of C2C. A 5 on the scale means this word resonates with you. 4 means it somewhat resonates with you. 3, neither resonates nor is a barrier. 2 is somewhat of a barrier, and 1 is a barrier to you. So are we able to pull up that poll?
We are, and for the simplicity's sake on this one, you can select the 3 terms that resonate with you the most. You'll get a chance to do that on ones that create the barriers. So for this, look at these 6 words and see which ones spark joy, which ones that you like the best, and you can pick 3 and then vote.
Thank you, Mark. Give folks a couple more seconds to respond.
Now we've got about 82% answer. It looks like people have stopped answering. So I will end the poll and share the results here for you.
Great. So it looks like a resounding success for data. 77% of you all, the data term resonates with you, system as well. And then information, insights also kind of round out that list. So thank you for that. This is all super helpful. Now we're going to go to barriers. If any of those names do not spark joy, if there's something that you don't want to see when you think about Cradle to Career, please let us know as well. And again, you don't have to select all three if that doesn't resound with you.
Almost 80%, so I'll give another few seconds. All right, looks like, oh, another couple coming in. Okay, I'm going to end the poll here.
Awesome. So looks like folks do not like ecosystem. Heard. Hub also does not spark joy with a lot of folks on this call, and very further down the line, system as well as insights kind of round out that mix. So sounds like we won't be using ecosystem in our name. Thank you all for that. And thank you, Maura, for launching that. So we're gonna move on then to more brainstorming. This is the part that I was talking about where we'll be using an open-ended question to gather your thoughts and feedback about what you really want to hear when thinking about Cradle to Career. So you can use the link that we sent in the chat, and you can also access Poll Everywhere by texting Cradle to Career California 654-22333, or you can also use the QR code on your screen to launch that directly into your phone. So I'm going to give folks a couple of minutes to get that started, and then I'm going to switch gears. Just give me a second as we launch the other, oops, let's go back. As we launch the other poll. So let's see here. All right, thank you all. We've got things coming in fast and furious. Got data, students, longitudinal data, system, college career guidance for students for all, a robot, data hub, data pathways, holistic student journey. I like that. Analysis comes up, longitudinal again. I'm gonna give folks a couple more minutes. So I go through to make sure we're not missing anything from folks. Accountability, advocacy, tools, longitudinal insights. See, something else came up. Data points, accessibility sounds like a lot of folks that's resonating with you. All right. Just going to do another scroll to make sure I didn't miss anything and give folks a couple more seconds to try to log in if you have not been able to do so. But it looks like everybody's feedback has been captured. Tool for improvement, a connective data system, early childhood through workforce, data hub for educational insights, education quality assessment, P20W, readiness, outcomes in college. All right. That's awesome. Thank you all for that. I'm going to try to exit out now and go back to sharing our screen. So what comes next? What we're going to do today is try to synthesize all the feedback that you've given us. It sounds like we will never include ecosystem in our name, but we're going to take that to our advisory boards who will be meeting next month to give a couple of naming and tagline options for their thoughts and feedback. and try to come up with a couple of real concrete names and taglines that will truly reflect the Cradle-to-Career mission. And from there, we're going to head over to our governing board, who has a meeting in November 2nd, where we will present final options for approval. And you should be able to hear from us about the process every step of the way, but I really just appreciate your engagement as we do this today. So thank you all. I appreciate your quick feedback on this. It's awesome to be able to really engage with the community on this. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Ryan to talk about data dashboards.
Thank you, Shannon, and thanks everybody for participating in that. Super helpful to hear everybody's take on the ideas so far. In a moment, we're going to do another round of input, but on data dashboards this time. But we'll take a break from input for just a little bit and share a little about myself and why this work is so important to me, and why I think this group in particular, this community setting is important to me. I'm in San Diego. I'm calling from San Diego. I've lived here for a long time now, but I grew up in Sacramento, and I came to San Diego to go to college, and then eventually started working as a school psychologist, and I did that for about 7 years or so before I became an administrator, district office level administrator. And I learned at that as an administrator at the district office that I liked that part of the system. And so explored a little bit more and started working at a county office, and then went on to work on statewide projects. There's an important lesson that I learned from kind of running the gamut of those positions, and that is that when I was closest to the students as a school psychologist working directly with the students, I always had this feeling of, gosh, I know exactly what the problems are that I want to solve, but it's very difficult to find the time to come up with interesting solutions for that. Because as a school psychologist or a teacher or any kind of practitioner, you're in the mode where you are constantly putting out fires. In worst case scenario, and best case scenario, you were executing your job duties. So then I moved on into administration, went to the county and then later on statewide projects. And what I learned is I had the opposite wondering, which was, okay, now my job is to actually come up with interesting solutions. Like that's actually what I get paid to do. But I have less access to the reality of the problems on the ground. And so it was the reverse of what happened when I was a school psychologist. Why am I telling this story? All of that to say, I think that's what makes meetings like this, gatherings like this, and the work of C2C driven by community engagement so important, because it brings those two things together. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that turns out for us, building a relationship with the community and making something together that's going to matter for our young people. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm going to show you in the next 20, 30 minutes or so. Shannon, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we're going to talk about, ultimately, this is going to be about hearing your take on data dashboards, learning about where your stories are. But before we get there, I want to build a little bit of a common understanding of what we mean when we say data dashboards. That can mean a lot of things. Certainly, if you are a family or a sort of young person, it can mean one thing. A researcher might, think of it in a different way. But even within those groups, that can mean some different things. So we'll spend some time looking at some examples, not our examples, but examples from other websites that you can go and find yourself. And we'll try and build some understanding of like what we mean when we say data dashboards. Then we are going to look at some examples of ideas that we have for a data dashboard that we are working on right now, which is one that is relating to teacher training and teacher retention. And I'm just going to show some of those ideas for you. These aren't completed yet, but these are just ideas that we're coming up with. And then we're going to use some survey tools to get your reaction to those ideas so we can learn more about what you think about this, and then ultimately integrate that into the way that we develop the dashboards. Okay, so let's go to some examples. All right, so what's a data dashboard? I looked at all kinds of different definitions. I knew certainly what I thought of, but I wanted to see what the internet says. And I kind of put all those together. And the simplest synthesis I could come up with is that a data dashboard is a visual display that summarizes many data points so that users can efficiently absorb information and make useful decisions. Sometimes what I almost added to that definition is the speed at which the data gets updated. Sometimes that, that drives what people think of as a dashboard and sometimes not. In this presentation, I'm going to show you examples of dashboards from other websites. So again, to be clear, these aren't Cradle-to-Career dashboards. They are examples from other websites. And we'll look at one from the California Department of Ed. We'll look at one from the National Weather Service. And then we'll look at one from a data journalism outfit 538. So let's jump in and let's have a look at these. All right, so this is the first one we're going to look at is a dashboard from the California Department of Education. Through the give me a reaction or say in the chat if you are familiar with a data tool that the California Department of Ed made called the California School Dashboards. Yep. Okay, some people, yeah, I'm not totally surprised at that. If you haven't looked at this yet, you should, because it's great. It's an example of what happens when you take a lot of data and then you come together and you package that data into a tool that is usable by a wide audience of people. This is something California Department of Education made. It's super good. Let's look a little bit closer at that. Shannon, if you can go to the next one, please. All right, so this screenshot is also from that same tool, the California Department of Education's California School Dashboards. And I'm just going to, for each of these examples, I'm just going to paint a picture of what it might look like for somebody to use this. Certainly, depending on the audience, there are all kinds of ways that you can use data like this, but I'll give you one example. All right, so imagine that a family is moving to a new neighborhood. Oops, sorry, go back one. And it's important to this family that they find a school with less than 1,000 students. That's just a thing that they care about. And so they can go on to California School Dashboards and they could look up local schools and that local school's enrollment. And then they can use that information to help them make decisions about which neighborhoods they want to check out and move to, or sort of, which cities. So one of countless ways that you can use the information that's on the California School Dashboards. All right, Shannon, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, this is one from the National Weather Service. And again, data dashboards, you can use them in all kinds of different ways, but I'll give you one example. So imagine that there is an agency that organizes natural disaster support, and they are planning to ship water and supplies, and they need to decide in the smartest way that they can where to send the resources to the regions that need the most. And so they might look at something like the severe weather dashboard on weather.gov. So again, this is not ours. This is on the National Weather Service. You can go there yourself and check it out. And they can use that dashboard to help inform them where severe storms are likely. Then they can make decisions based on that. So that's something more for like the planners, right? Okay, last example, and then we're going to talk about some of our ideas. All right, this one is a lighter example. This one is a data dashboard from the data journalism website, 538.com, right? And here's, again, many ways that you can use this one or enjoy this one. But here's one example. Members of a soccer fan club want to know how this week's matches affect the chances of their team winning a trophy. All right, this is more, not a huge decision to make, but for entertainment, which is also important. They look at the soccer predictions on 538.com and celebrate, or depending on their team, commiserate what the results might mean for future games. All right, so what I hope that you get out of this is that, yes, Cradle-to-Career are building dashboards we feel like are going to be important for decision-making on all kinds of levels, but dashboards in general can be used by a whole lot of different audiences and for a whole lot of reasons, which makes it really important for us to have this conversation to begin to develop something that is going to be meaningful to you, whoever you are and whatever your role is in this sort of universe that we're playing in together, to be able to use this information in a way that is meaningful to you. Okay, so now let's have a conversation about our ideas, and then I can't wait to hear what you think. So a big part of our job right now at Cradle to Career is to build dashboards that don't exist yet. So we're going to build these. We're going to gather up data that our wonderful data partners are sharing with us. And we're going to build a number of dashboards to help you in your day-to-day decisions, whether that's for work or your personal life, or if you're a young person going from high school to college and making big decisions that way. And for us to understand what kinds of data in general, dashboards in particular, resonate with you, what gets you really excited and makes you feel empowered to make good decisions, we want to know what that experience is like for you. And so help us do that by sharing about a time that you use data tools like the ones that I showed you in the examples. So again, some of those examples might be weather websites, sports websites, health trackers is another big one. And for this one, we are going to be, for this round of input, we are going to be using the chat. All right, so get your typing fingers ready. And we're going to be typing into the Zoom chat for this one. The purpose of this is to hear your stories about how you have used data dashboards, or maybe you haven't used them before, which is fine. You could say that too. Okay, so before we start, thumbs up if you are ready to type in the chat. Thumbs up. All right, very good. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, here we go. Go ahead and start letting us know in the chat. How have you used data dashboards in the past? Do you have a favorite one? Let us know in the chat. All right, Lorenzo says, production of documents associated with technical assistance and monitoring activities. Yep, familiar with that. All right, Patricia says, looking at percent complete for an educational program or course, and be able to dive in and look at subgroups. Yeah, subgroups, super important. Sarah says data quest. Yeah, so context there for anybody not familiar with data quest. That's another one the California Department of Ed has made, also very useful. Luis says LMI data through EMSI. Hey, Luis, if you don't mind, I'm not familiar with those acronyms. And so for me and for the rest of the audience, if you don't mind, drop into the chat. Ed data, data zone. Maxime says financial scorecards, COVID-19 tracking. Yep. Yeah, that's, boy, in retrospect, kind of obvious, feels like one that I miss as a really great example. It's been a really important one last few years. Check out dashboard P2P. It's a suggestion from Darcy. Rebecca says we use California dashboards to support the work of school counselors, support districts with their LCAT metrics. Thanks, Luis. Labor market information through EMSI. Got it. Awesome. Okay, keep those coming. We are going to save this chat and we are going to compile this information to help us understand how we can best develop meaningful dashboards. Okay, so let's, let me ask one more. All right, also in the chat, super important. For any of these dashboards that you get a lot of use out of, all right, I know this is kind of a weird question, but just stay with me on this. When was the moment that you realized this is the dashboard I need to use? When was that moment? Maybe it was something that you saw, maybe it was a result that you got, maybe it was a successful decision you made. When was the moment that you realized, California school dashboards, I'm going to be using this again? Okay, Maxime says the interactivity, the insights that they got out of it. Yep. Janice says when it was easy to navigate. All right, so clear directions for how to use filters, labels, break down what it is in each data set. All right, awesome, so helpful. Linda, when my boss told me that we needed to focus on it, that's real. Love it. All right, please, please, please keep these answers coming. It is so useful to us in our design process. So please, I'm going to move on, but keep them coming. All right, Shannon, let's have a look at the next one here. Okay. This is really great. Like I wasn't sure if we're gonna have enough time for these, but I brought two examples for you, and I think we'll have time for both, but we'll see. Okay. Okay. So I mentioned earlier that the first dashboard that we are building is one related to teacher training and teacher retention. All right. So this is following the journey of teachers as they get trained to serve students, and then how their jobs and careers develop over time, and also how well that matches where the needs are for teachers across the state. So lots of questions like that. And so we have two ideas that are certainly not final ideas, but just thoughts that came to us. And I'm going to give you I'm going to do two things. I'm going to ask you to imagine a scenario. And then I am going to propose a dashboard idea, and I'm going to ask you to react to that. All right. So for now, just listen. Here's just going to paint a picture here for you. Okay. So I want you to imagine that leaders of a teacher preparation program at a college, right? So like, here in San Diego, we might have UCSD or San Diego State University have teacher programs. Imagine if leaders at an institution like that have set out to improve their system so that they are training more teachers for areas where there are teacher shortages, right? So if there are like teacher shortages in STEM areas or something like that, imagine that there are leaders who are like, okay, so how do we revise our training program so that we get more people trained for that, right? I'm going to ask for your input on what that might look like. So Shannon, if you can go to the next one, please. All right, I got two ideas. This is the first one. All right, so we want to share information that helps teachers finish their training journey. Ultimately, it's what we want: connect teachers with kids, feel empowered to serve them. And so one idea is we have a dashboard that will include information on the majors for that teachers are learning. So these subject area majors that they're learning in college, like UCSD or San Diego State. And we just want to learn about like what share of teachers are studying in particular content areas, right? And we want to be able to take that information and then make it available to a wide audience so that they can use it for their work as they improve the systems and support teachers in their journey to finishing. So that was the scenario. Now I'm going to ask for your reaction to that. And for this one, we are going to be using Poll Everywhere, right? A tool called Poll Everywhere. So I'm going to just drop that. You can see the, Shannon, if you don't mind, can we go back to that? I'm just going to read the prompt and then we'll go. All right. So, so it's two polls, and we go through this again, the questions. But the first one is, okay, you don't have to answer right away. Just kind of reflect on this. On a scale from 1 to 5, how would you rate the usefulness of this information for however you would use it? Okay. Recall that what we're talking about is the subject areas that teachers are studying in teacher training programs. All right. I'm going to answer that in Poll Everywhere on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 being not at all useful and 5 being extremely useful. And then we are going to, Luis is asking for the Poll Everywhere link in the chat. Yep, I'm going to drop it in there in just a second. And then in a moment, thank you, Shannon. In a moment, we are going to ask you to still in Poll Everywhere answer some questions, just kind of open-ended questions. We'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, Shannon, let's move to Poll Everywhere. Everybody get into their Poll Everywhere mode. All right. Okay, so we've launched the poll here. All right, and people are just rating and putting in there, right? So as you do that, I'm gonna go put the question in the chat too, so you can see it. Oops, down in there. All right, here's the prompt in the chat again, in case you need it. All right. Okay. Here. All right, so I think we're getting a mix of answers here, but just for now, let's rate on a scale from 1 to 5. How would you rate the usefulness of this information? For those of you who are putting in what looks like answers to the next poll, take a mental note of those, because we're going to do that poll next, and I would love for you to put that in there too. Okay, so it looks like I'm just kind of looking at the numbers here. I'm looking at, the way these word clouds work is the larger the text, the more people who've submitted that response. So look at 4 is the biggest one, maybe 3 coming in next. All right, Shannon, let's try the next poll. All right, we're going to stay with poll everywhere. So you have entered into poll everywhere mode. Stay there because we're going to try the next one. All right.
Ryan, is this the question that you want to be using, or should we try to reset for the first one again?
Oh yeah, let's reset for the one that is name one wish you have for a dashboard like this. Do you have that one in there?
Yep.
Let's go to that one.
Apologies.
All right, all right, don't answer just yet. Let's I'm going to put this just so we're clear. Apologize for any confusion on that last one. Let's try to fix it by being clear here. I'm going to drop this question in the chat. All right. Name one wish you have for a dashboard like this. All right. I see answers coming in already. Okay, so these are not the number rating. This is like the wish, right? So if you wish for it to be like somebody has said, clear, that there's consent. Great. People are putting it in there. As you're typing that in, remember the dashboard we are talking about is one that gives you information about what teachers are studying in their teacher training programs. All right, this is really great. So as the question and responses come in, I see the words grad, teacher, and credential as some of the most frequent one. Disaggregate. Yeah, so I presume that means disaggregate by student group, either by race, gender identity, etc. Good, good, good. Yeah, keep these coming. So just to give you a sense, we take all of this data, the open-ended responses, the quantified ones, the numbers, the words, and we put it all together and we begin to draw themes. And then from those themes, we develop design principles for these dashboards, right? So there is a process we sort of walk through to help us develop based on this conversation. So super important that you share. Dr. Roxana Marachi says my response got split up. No problem. No problem. We'll thanks for the note. We save the chat and we'll. Oh, Sarah says the polls received the maximum number, which is great. I think we should pat ourselves on the back because that means participation very, very high. Love it. Poll is full. Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. Sarah, no worries. If you want to, you can drop your response in the chat or you can private message to me or Shannon. And we'll make sure that we get your input. I would like to apologize for the massive amount of participation, but I'm not going to. That's pretty sweet. That's awesome. If you feel like there was something that was missed, just private message us or put it in the chat. Either way, we're saving everything, so we'll go through it later. Okay, I think we got time for another topic, and then that'll be the last one. I'm going to just do a quick check-in here for the Mara, if you could. Do we have the availability of a Zoom poll for the 1 to 5 poll?
Yep, for emergency. Which one?
We do for the emergency credentials one.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, that's what we're going to use. All right, so we are now exiting poll everywhere mode, and I'm going to do the same thing. Use the exact same routine. I'm going to give you a scenario, and then I'm going to ask for your input. This time, we'll do a Zoom chat for the 1 to 5, right? And then we'll use poll everywhere. It's okay. I know that those are a lot of tools and stuff, but I'll make sure that we're all kind of in the same place before we start. I see people putting in additional responses. Thank you, Patricia. Okay, so still thinking about teacher retention dashboards, right? We want to share information that helps teacher finish their training journey. And so to that end, the dashboard will include information about the number of teachers who are still finishing their credential training. So some of us might be familiar with that process, that you can have a number of different kinds of sort of stages towards the credential. So that dashboard will include information about the types of credentials and then how long teachers tend to stay in the field. Of course, given that we are not collecting new data, we're gathering data from our partners. This is not about any one particular teacher, of course. That might be something you're wondering about. This is all done in aggregate. So we're looking at large numbers so we can notice trends across California and then use that to make decisions. All right. So for folks who are interested in the details about what this means, that could mean emergency permits, waivers, internships, like those that when we say, you know, these different kinds of credentials, that's what we mean. Okay, sit on that for a little bit, and then I'm going to be asking for your input. Okay, while you reflect, I'm just going to remind us we're going to do this in two ways. The first is on a scale from 1 to 5. That's Mara is going to help us with that, and that's going to be rating the usefulness of this dashboard. All right, dashboard idea. And then after that, we'll use poll everywhere for open-ended stuff, just like we did in the last one. Okay, so first, Zoom poll. Thumbs up if you are ready for a Zoom poll about the usefulness of a data dashboard like this. All right, Martha, thank you. I see your thumbs up. All right. Okay, Mara, let's go ahead and load this one up. On a scale from 1 to 5, how would you rate the usefulness of this information? As a reminder, that information is about types of credentials and how long these teachers stay in the field. Some examples: emergency permits, waivers, and internships. By the way, if in your role or in the capacity you're participating in, this is like a new idea to you, that's okay. You can say that in the chat, or you can just sort of watch the responses come in. Mara, I'll rely on you to let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 68% complete. So give this another few seconds, but maybe that and now we're at 71. Give it another 3, 2, 1. Okay, going to end the poll here. And here are your results.
All right. So pretty close. So very useful at the highest share of responses, 44%, somewhat useful, 41%, useful, 13%. Nobody responded to not very useful, and then 3% at not at all useful. So I would like to invite, we're going to move on to some open-ended questions, but as a general invitation, if you have specific thoughts about why you responded the way that you did and your thoughts about that, find a way to share that with us, either in the chat or a direct message. If you want to email us, that's cool too. And those are all ways that we sort of gather up all this information. All right. So thank you for doing that. And now we are going to move on to the open-ended questions. And for this, we are going to be using poll everywhere. Right. So switch into poll everywhere mode. This is, we're going to be doing the word cloud just like you did on the last one, but except for we're going to be doing it for this topic. All right. So first poll everywhere question: name one wish that you have for a dashboard like this. As a reminder, the dashboard we're talking about is about the types of credentials and how long these teachers stay in the field. All right, we'll let y'all respond. Yep, preliminary versus clear, yep. Yeah, distribution. Yeah, like what share of each one? Oh, location. Interesting. Disaggregate. Yeah, like I really feel like one of the binding kind of values in this community is equity and inclusion and disaggregating the data. Huge part of that. Not at all surprised to see that that's a thing that's important to folks. Urban versus rural, really good. I'm tempted to let this go to see if we max this one out too. But Shannon, if you sort of feel like we're reaching critical mass, you can just let me know and I'll move on to our next and final question.
This may be it for now. We'll give folks just one more second. They're coming in.
Yeah, this is really great. I'm seeing some really great stuff in the chat too. Dr. Roxana Marachi says, it's worth noting there are a lot of contextual factors to considering the rates of how long teachers stay. 100% yes. May or may not have anything to do with the credential pandemic, for example. Yeah, this is really good input and nuance. Rebecca says teacher data are one of the state priorities in California, and it's reflected in the California school dashboards. Yep, LCAP metrics and the SARCs. More information LEAs and schools have to understand their data that are visually easy to digest, the better. All right, noted. Okay. On this same topic about teacher credentials, we've got one more. All right, so I'm gonna wait for Shannon to load that one up. Okay, we're still in poll everywhere mode here. Okay, describe the ideal data dashboard to show this information. As a reminder, that information is about the types of credentials and how long teachers stay in the field. Describe the ideal data dashboard to show this information. I love the interactive idea. Friendly invitation. Don't feel compelled to do this if if you're not comfortable. But for those of us who feel strongly about interactive, could you drop a note in the chat, either private or public, about what that interactivity could look like? Like when you imagine in your head, you wave a Harry Potter wand, you have the perfect dashboard. What does the interactivity look like? I mean, it turns out interactive is like that. It looks like that one of
Got a
those.
lot
Yeah.
of responses.
Yeah, really interesting. Alex says interactive ability to filter by geography, demographics, credential type. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So like the opposite of that one, maybe not so useful, is just like a kind of flat sort of display that doesn't allow you to like subset the data and stuff like that. Darcy does a +1 for Alex's note. Good. This is super helpful. Shannon, how's it looking? Looking like we reaching critical mass there?
Yeah, just give a couple more. They are coming in.
Okay.
Pass at the end. Give folks a couple more moments to give your thoughts, share your thoughts again. You can also add them to the chat or email us after if you have anything that you did not get out today. So we're always here, always open for feedback.
Yeah, I really like this comment here about folks who are represented in the data knowing that they are, which is so important. And I think it's worth noting again that we're spending a ton of time and resources to make sure that that is done correctly. But the one thing I'll sort of say about this is that we're looking at this kind of data across California, right? So not about any one particular, or I mean, not even really about like a small group as much as it is like, okay, let's sort of look at the availability of positions in California, like how many of those are filled and how many are not. Like we're kind of looking at scale because of that exact issue. So we spent a ton of time thinking about that, and so whoever put that in there, I'm so glad that you did, because we're on the same page.
Great. I'm going to go back to their last slides now.
All right.
Or should we jump ahead?
No, what? No. So this is it for my part. I'll just close this part here, and then before I turn it back over to you, Shannon. First, I just want to thank everybody for participating in that, because it's so important that well, let me put it this way: the school psychologist in me from back from 2000 is thanking you for making your voice heard and giving it to this process where we can build something that's really useful for people. And it can be hard to find ways to do that, but we thank you for for participating. I'm going to close with a quote from designer Tim Brown. The mission of design thinking is to translate observations into insights, and insights into products and services that will improve lives. And I really like this because one of the things I really hope here is that we can earn your trust, that when you give us information, that we'll be able to build things and show you that we've used it, because it's so important for us to do that. And so I think this quote captures that really, really well. Okay, it's 12:56. I'm going to turn it over to my teammate Shannon, who is going to close us out.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you all so much for joining us today, sticking with us as we went over some very, very important things, naming and most importantly, data dashboards. Your feedback is so important, so critical, and we look forward to engaging with you all throughout this entire process. As Ryan said, this is our first time doing this together, and I am energized just hearing all of the thoughts and feedback today from you all, so thank you again. As mentioned earlier, if you have anything that you want to share with us outside of today, you can always reach us at info@c2c.ca.gov. That inbox is monitored by a human. And so if you ever need to get in touch, please feel free to do so. And if you have not signed up for updates, I encourage you all to do so. You can go to our Get Involved section, c2c.ca.gov/get involved, to sign up, to stay up to date, and sign up for our newsletter, because we want to hear from you. So thank you all again, and we hope that you had an enjoyable hour. I know I did, and thank you, and looking forward to chatting again soon.